Hello and welcome to episode 17 of Timely Topics. Today, I'm sitting down with Jeffrey Lizotte, the executive chef and co-owner of The Foundry. After studying in France and spending several formative years sharpening his skills in the fast-paced kitchens of New York City, this Simsbury native made his way back home in 2016. He first opened Present Company in Terriffill, Connecticut, a restaurant known for its distinctive open kitchen design that invites guests to witness the artistry behind each dish. Building on that success, and more recently, Jeff partnered with HSB to help elevate the food scene here in Hartford, culminating in the launch of The Foundry, a vibrant, contemporary restaurant that has quickly become a centerpiece of the city's dining culture. In our conversation, Jeff and I dive into what it takes to stand out in the culinary world, how communication impacts everything in the kitchen, and what Jeff's visions are for the future of Hartford and its hospitality scene. Let's dig in. I'm so excited to welcome Jeff Lizotte to the Collaboratory studio today. Jeff, so great to have you here.
Rory, I'm really excited to be here as well.
We're really happy to have you here today to talk about your experience as an executive chef and your newest venture as the co-owner of Hartford's hottest new restaurant, The Foundry. So congratulations on all that success. And I want to dive right in because there's a lot of buzz around The Foundry, but I wanted to get in touch with who's Jeff Lizotte and what's his story and how did this all come to be? So let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an executive chef and really what inspired you to pursue that path to begin with?
My career started pretty early, and I think one of the things I'm really happy about is I kind of made my mind up, I think, at a young age in terms of what I liked and what I wanted to do in my career. And so by the time I was 14 years old, I was working in a kitchen.
Nice.
And both my older sisters were working at a restaurant that I, started working at. So I got this experience where it was, your first job. This is a very interesting job, and it's also very familiar, and it felt safe. It felt great. It was hard work, but it was fun. The personalities, the energy. It was a great outlet for a kid with a lot of energy to do on a Friday and Saturday night, and then that extended later into the weeks. And when I was juggling, like working almost like a part-time job, but also playing varsity sports, like it was a lot. But that's how I like to run. I'm a busy guy.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been learning and through our Build Hartford course and spending a lot of great time with so many people in the Hartford area in the hospitality space and now the Connecticut area is if you want to work in the restaurant industry, you better be good with the chaos, right? You better be good with that kind of like organized, every day is going to be a little different. And so many people kind of know and recognize early that that's the case. What set you off then on what became a really illustrious career early on? I mean, you got a chance to travel to Europe and you've worked at some very prestigious and impressive restaurants. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, going to France was an amazing experience, number one, and you get a chance to travel for an extended amount of time and be immersed in a different culture. It has such a profound effect, and I think I was at the right age. I was 25, 26 years old when I went after spending some time in New York City, so I was certainly primed for that experience. I landed a job in Bordeaux at a bistro called La Tupina. Fantastic spot, super old school, very southwestern French, lots of duck, lots of mushrooms, beautiful Bordeaux wine. So a lovely place and a great sort of patron that owned it who really inspired me and helped me get my feet planted firmly in the Bordeaux community. I lived in downtown Bordeaux, lived next to this beautiful Gothic cathedral, Saint Pierre. So it was really cool. So I did a year. I had a visa for a year. When that was up, I wasn't up with France, so I wanted to reapply again for another, working visa, which takes a little time. So I came back home and went back for another year and worked at a 2-star Michelin restaurant in a town called Grasse, which is in the Côte d'Azur area, right above Nice, Cannes. So an amazing, beautiful old olive farm that was converted into a restaurant with an amazing terrace that overlooked the Mediterranean Ocean, just bucolic, and that was an incredible experience. Yeah.
What were some of the most important takeaways that still stand with you today? Obviously, we were talking about culture in a previous episode and how it has the ability to really shape our decisions. When you have an immersive experience like that, it really changes you forever. You come back to Connecticut eventually, and we're going to dive into everything that's going on with the Foundry right now. But just as a young man and that experience, immersing yourself in that Michelin environment, you probably thought, as many young men maybe in their 20s do, thought you probably knew everything. What was something that maybe you walked away with saying, wow, I have a really strong or deeper appreciation for this part of the industry?
Yeah, chefs, especially when they're young, they have a big head.
Yeah,
you know, the ego is strong, and I think going and exposing myself, especially my second job at La Bastide Saint Antoine, and with the caliber of the cuisine and the young guys that were 18 years old and they've been living and breathing Michelin cuisine since they were 14 years old. It's like, it's like anything. You move up to that league and you obviously can smell it and see it right when you're there. And just being exposed by that and realizing that there's always going to be someone that's going to be a lot better, a lot deftly able to, look at food and transform it and be an artist and be creative, but also run a restaurant and run a kitchen. So, it's that, typically a restaurant can be anything, but it's always going to be unpredictable. You never know. But the way it's set up and the system in the kitchen is supposed to be predictable. So you have this dichotomy, which is always interesting, and that's when it's balanced, it's great.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to dive into that topic, right? So you come back to Connecticut and you have some success, and we're going to dive into the Foundry. But what I want to talk about first and foremost is, as an executive chef, when you're in the kitchen, you talked about this balance between chaos and organization. And we spent a lot of time on the podcast, and our listeners would know this, the role that communication plays in maintaining some of that structure and creating culture. I want to start by asking you a rather general question. And how do you approach communication with your team, given that the kitchen can be a pretty high pressure, hot situation sometimes? What's your fundamental philosophical approach to communication in general?
So we do a pre-service meeting every day with the entire staff, and that lasts about 20 minutes. That's at 4:15. So we open the doors at 5 o'clock. So, it's the perfect time to take that chunk of time together as a team and connect. And without that, we would be severely disadvantaged. It's crucial, as we know, communication. So that is our pillar. That is our time, and we stick to that every day, and it's super, super important.
When you think about creating a collaborative environment and creating a team that really is bought in to the mission, what do you think is the essence of that? Like, what are some of the characteristics of the team or of the leadership, right? Or even what's your responsibility now as the executive chef in that kitchen to make sure that there is collaboration, that there is teamwork, that there's rapport?
Engagement, making sure that everyone that, whether you're washing dishes or you're a prep cook or you're the host, that you feel engaged, that you have a role, that it's valuable and it's seen, and it contributes to the overall, operation in a way that, is super important.
For you, does that feel like an individual basis, especially in your role? Do you try to create or sustain relationships individually? Is it something that at some point you have to delegate out and you've got to kind of trust your team leaders? How does that play out?
Well, the Foundry has quite a big team for a single restaurant, and especially since we just started serving lunch, which is great. If you haven't come up yet, lunch is great.
Cool.
Up there. So we have a big team, and the ability for me to touch everyone every day, that's, I think, a big role that I love having. Just the quick, simple, hey, how are you? What's going on? You good? Look at me in the eyes. Like, that is crucial. And one of the things I loved about when I worked in France is, when you walk into a room in the kitchen, everyone greets each other. Everyone stops what they're doing and they actually do the bisou, they do the kisses. And so it's like, it was so foreign when I saw that. It didn't matter who you were, if you were the dishwasher, or if you were the head chef or the owner, it was really cool. So I love taking the time to touch everyone, making sure just, hey, how are you? I'm checking in.
Yeah, checking in and just having that engagement. And that's the beginning of a relationship, right? Because without that, you don't have disclosure. We talk about you need disclosure to build a relationship. And that's so critical. So keeping this going in regards to this conversation, like, obviously the food industry has changed rather significantly. And everybody talks about the post-COVID era, especially here in downtown Hartford, and the impact that that's had on us. One of the things I want to dive into, though, is like you have this European experience, right? It's close and it's intimate, right? And relationships are at the forefront of the teamwork. We now have a food industry that's shifted. We are, at times we've heard like recruitment, retention can be really, really difficult. You've got high degrees of turnover. What is it that you've had to adapt in regards to your style that is going to allow you to be successful in what I'll call like kind of the contemporary modern era that we're working in right now?
No, it's a great question. Yeah, I think what's great about my career is it started sort of in an old chapter, and I saw a new chapter while I was, growing within that. And so what I saw when I first started is so different than what we have today. The expectations of everyone, whether you're the owner, whether you're a manager or your employee, all those things have developed, I think, for the net positive. And the challenge for owners and operators is to be able to meet those expectations, based with the limited resources a lot of them have. But the restaurant business in general is going to have to face eventually a change to create a space that nurtures and retains staff better. And I think a lot of that is going to do with being able to get away from the sub minimum wage and having tips. If we could have a space up there, for example, at the Foundry, where everything was an added gratuity, where we didn't have to deal with that, and be able to pay servers a higher hourly rate, or all these staff to get something that's guaranteed. So the variability of that has always been difficult. And to be able to manage that and communicate that effectively too is important.
Yeah, we deal with this from time to time in regards to whether it's organizational training or setting up your entrepreneurial startup. You have now new norms and expectations in the workplace, whether it's in the kitchen or it's in the office place or it's out of the construction site. I say that because, society, particularly here in the Western world, has moved more and more towards individualism and celebrating individualism, right? And bringing all of our innovative and unique characteristics. And yet when I think about how do you get a restaurant, especially one with really high expectations, like some of the places that you've worked at, it requires a level of conformity, right? It requires a level of like buying in. And I'm kind of curious, you talk about kind of the old chapter, this new chapter. We've seen shifts in the norms and expectations across different generations. How's that been to navigate, especially given the fact that you actually have cultural experience outside of not just here on the East Coast, but when you go to Bordeaux and then you try to come back home and the expectations of standards maybe aren't the same. Is that difficult to try to create that in others? Do you find that it's something that it's your responsibility to try to bring it out, or do you think that it exists within your people intrinsically, and that's why they're drawn to the industry to begin with?
Well, yeah, I mean, like in any competitive field, and certainly kitchens, if we'll talk about kitchens in general.
Yeah,
that's where I spend most of my life. It's a highly competitive place. So the ones that are going to do well and be successful, sure. Do they need encouragement? Do they need nurturing? Do they need effective inspiration and coaching? But they need to have it intrinsically as well, right? So, and that will naturally come out. I think you can tell if someone's going to be a good cook, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a science to it. There's an art, there's an intuition. There's a gesture, if you will, to it. And so that's always been interesting for me, to move away from the operations into management, into ownership, and see talent walk in the door that you can talk to, but you can also just watch them. And that's really cool, and see how that develops.
Is there something
and think about what it was like when maybe you were that age.
Yeah,
too,
I'd love to know, because so many of us, we really have not been behind the counter, right? We show up, we have amazing experiences, the food's delicious, we go home, we say, oh man, this is amazing, and don't really know, I don't personally, what went into that. What's something that you could share with listeners who haven't had that experience? Like, what's something when you see somebody walk in, you say, oh, they've got talent. What might be a handful of things that would stand out to you if they walked into your kitchen this afternoon, you thought, ooh, they've got it?
Yeah, if I had like a cook walk in for the first time and, like doing what we call stage, basically, or just kind of working for a day and checking it out. And if they're working clean and they have a sense of urgency and, and that they're present, and you can tell they have to love it. If they're just, if they're just there and they're doing it, but they're loving it for the wrong reasons, the reason has to be, in this business, your love of food to do this, I think, for a long time, because otherwise it's just not going to last. It has to be more about yourself. You got to take yourself out of the situation and realize that what you're doing is essentially what they're doing in hospitals, or what they're doing at nursing homes, or that's what they're doing for people. You're nurturing people, right?
Yeah.
And Thomas Keller says that all the time. He's everyone knows this guy, and a huge inspiration for me. And I think when it comes down to that, those are the guys that are like, wow, they're gonna be good. And guys and girls.
I love that, and I love that in the sense that I often like to have an opportunity. We spend a lot of time mentoring startups and entrepreneurs and just, young people at every parts in their career. And the advice that I was just talking about in a previous episode was saying, do what you're good at, right? Like, go find the thing that you genuinely love and you're passionate about it. And if you do the thing that you're good at long enough, like, good things will happen. So it's really interesting to me, as somebody who doesn't have very many culinary art skills in his packet, to recognize that it's still the same, right? It's still the same. Yes, you need the technical skills, but if you don't have the heart and soul for it, like, it's just not going to play out.
Yeah, gotta have the bones and the soul.
Yeah,
both of them.
All right, so let's check this out. Let's talk about the Foundry. So I had an opportunity to get up there 48 hours ago. Came up 5:30. You walk into the space and you're immediately overwhelmed, at least for me, by the light. And to me, it's so great to be up on the 20th floor there, where you actually feel like you're with Hartford. You've got great views. Really, almost it feels like 360 degrees. Like, you walk around all the spaces you guys created is incredible. I took a tour on my own. Thanks very much. And it was great. And I enjoyed it. And one of the things that just instantly stood out to me was, we haven't had a space like that for a long time. And I walked in and I thought instantly, this is a space that I want to bring my wife to and I want to go out on a date. This is a space that I want to bring my work colleagues to and I want to celebrate at. This is a space that I'd want to do, business meetings at. And as I sat there and I watched the clientele walk in the door from 5:30 to about 8:30 at night, that was exactly who walked in. Folks, if you're listening, Foundry is amazing, just the space in and of itself. But what I want to talk to you a little bit about is, when you came up with the vision and you started to put this together, obviously as the executive chef, you're thinking about the menu, right? You're thinking about the food, right? Because that's, of course, the centerpiece for it all. How did you create the vision? And how did you create a balance between maybe the creativity of what you wanted to do and to be different and to test yourself and to test your chefs, versus like the business side of it? Like, what's practical? What do we have access to? Like, how do we bring in the right ingredients that are local, that are fresh, that we can work with? Talk to us a little bit about, as this was coming together, like, how that process unfolded for you.
The process was an amazing journey. We'll use that bang word right now. It was a big journey for Jeff with this. I was there. I used to work there. I knew the space and the opportunity to resurrect it. I'm not trying to be too biblical right now. This is Good Friday, but it was almost like, it was this amazing renaissance of a space that I had some history and a connection to. And so the mission was to do it in an amazing way that reflected the history, but had to be completely different and new and modern. So there was a lot. It was a huge undertaking. Took about 2 years from design concept to build out to get to where we are. So it was an amazing experience for me. I worked with an incredible crew of people, from architects to engineers to designers to consultants. And so for me, it was an incredibly enriching part of my career.
I want to know how would you describe it? So I know I'm going to be going out this weekend. I'm going to be talking to people about the experience. Let me use your words instead of mine. How would you describe the design of the space? And then tell me a little bit, how would you describe the design of the menu?
The design of the space is meant to transport you from anywhere that you were in that building or in downtown Hartford, and to also highlight Hartford and its incredible, beautiful features overlooking the river, the Constitution Plaza. That building itself is just it's a gem, and we're situated just in the corner of it, so it's super. And so the bar's facing west, so you get this beautiful afternoon or evening light. And so it's meant to be open and expansive. You walk in and you have an incredible entranceway, beautiful host stand with a small private room to the side. And then you walk into an incredible bar that had some inspiration from some other iconic bars throughout the country, but also needed to feature what was essentially our theme, an industrial chic feel that took you to a place with a connection of the history of Hartford, and to a modern design and feel.
Yeah, there's also a connection to the building in itself and the steam boiler, and you've got a lot of artifacts in there. Can you talk a little bit about folks that might not be familiar with that connection and why the artifacts are what they are, how you selected those?
So 1 State Street is the headquarters for HSB, Hartford Steam Boiler and Inspection Insurance. And that's a company that has deep roots in Hartford, and it's an incredible pillar of our community. And the Foundry is an extension of the excellence of that organization. So with that and the mission to constantly be a big part of the Hartford business community, but also this feeling that we need to all focus on bringing Hartford back after the pandemic and bringing opportunity to downtown and business and buzz, with the hopes that this will create more and it will encourage other developers and other organizations, and even just the small folks here in our local community to come downtown, spend some money or invest and open a business, or go through an opportunity to look at what this space has to provide. Because I spent a lot of time here when I was working at On 20 for close to 10 years, coming back to it. People don't know how awesome this little nook is, especially our little nook in Constitution Plaza right here in Hartford.
Yeah, it really is great. I share all those sentiments. We've been working hard on it in our own regards, and we were talking a little bit about that before we started recording. I think it's happening. I think that I'm having more and more conversations with people on the street, in business, on the show, and the sentiments are there. So it's not ever like one person, right? It's all of our collective efforts to change that narrative. And it's nice when something tangible comes along, or a location or space comes along that really represents that movement, that it's not just the idea, but now it's an actual place that we can gather. And it really was so exciting to see such a microcosm of all of Hartford's people walk through the door on Wednesday afternoon and be there to kind of almost in a sense celebrate, right? Whatever it was they were celebrating, but celebrating that they had a place in Hartford to gather.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, we're certainly at an advantage because people are so excited once they get up there, and when you take that energy and then you sit down and you do what you do. You do a great dining experience. It's just like, it doesn't get much better than that.
So let's talk about the dining experience. One of the things that I'm passionate about is like these curated experiences within an organization where everybody shares a vision, where everybody shares the mission, where everybody's locked in, right? Whether you're the chef, whether you're the maitre d', like the whole thing should be in line. Do you have a very specific vision or ideology or mental model for what relatively each of your clients, your customers, your patrons' experiences would be like from the moment that they get off the elevator to the moment that they sign the check and leave and get back to their car or walk out? Like, do you think through that, and how do you communicate that and create alignment amongst everybody that works there?
It's a great question. We spent a lot of time on, we were talking before, it's just a lot more than, what's on your plate and what's in your glass. All the elements that come together to make that experience feel seamless. I think some of the best restaurants in the world and the best restaurant experience I've had as a diner have been places where it feels like you're not at a restaurant. Everything's just sort of invisible. You don't notice the service. The service is there. You're constantly taken, to a place that's fun and exciting and delicious. So, we start from the ground, and when folks come, we need to make sure that they're welcome right away. So we have a valet parking service that we didn't have when it was on 20, and that's huge because a lot of the times just getting down here, there's so many new people who are not familiar with Columbus Boulevard and where's the building, where do I park? Oh, parking's always a thing. We've got it taken care of, and so that is huge. And then we've put another host stand actually on. So the building has 2 sets of elevators rather, to get up to the 20th floor where the restaurant is. we've decided to put another host stand down on the 3rd floor to also welcome guests as well, and help them, escort them, get up on the elevator. And then we're able to let the, the front of house staff know that, this couple's on their way. So it creates an entrance, right?
Yeah.
And that's huge.
Yep.
And people, between us knowing who's walking up, greeting them, and then walking into the space, we're riding high already.
Yeah.
So then it's, it's like their ability to choose, do we want to hang out and have a drink first before we get sat, or your table's ready, we're going to get you sat right away. On busy nights, we have a bar that's full, and people are showing up that don't have reservations, but hoping maybe they can get sat in the dining room, and that happens. We always want to keep spaces open for walk-ins, but what we want to do is curate an experience, which depends on timing. So reservations are tight, and the way we need to run service and the pace is crucial to the experience, but it's also crucial to the business. We want to be able to bring the right volume in and be able to accept the demand that we have, and we've had a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So reservations, that's how we manage that is crucial to the experience. Once the guests are sat, it's warm greetings, it's introductions, it's beginning to start to tell our story to the guests about the cocktail program, about the food program, the menu, the space. We equip everyone on the floor and everyone in the kitchen to know as much about what this restaurant is and what it's all about, to be able to help share that with our guests. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's an open kitchen, so you're talking to your servers. People love to go out because not only that, but they want to connect. The human relationship is crucial, and so they're able to talk with our chefs because of the open kitchen. The folks sitting at the chef's counter, they love that. I love going out to the dining room and able to connect with all the new people that are coming up and asking them, how did they find out about us, and did you know the space before? It's awesome. It's a really easy way to start connecting with a lot of folks.
Yeah, folks, you got to go check this out. Whether you're in Hartford and you haven't been yet, maybe you've been down 20, you haven't been to the Foundry, or maybe you're listening to the podcast and you're not from the Hartford area at all and you're making a trip here. It is a great space. It does feel warm. It does feel welcome. It feels like the word that I used to describe was it just felt like there was just light and you can see through. You guys have so many cool rooms and spaces, and the accents and everything was just so fitting. It's just incredibly well done. And so congratulations to you and the entire team. All right, let's bring our interview home with our rapid fire questions. So I got 3 questions for you, Jeff. And the first one, and this is probably rather poignant for an executive chef, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Embrace the mistakes.
I love that. That's fantastic. And it's a perfect mindset for working in the kitchen, right?
Yeah, a lot of mistakes happen in the kitchen.
That's awesome. I love that. That's fantastic. Poignant and succinct, my favorite. Okay, second question for you. What might be a book, TV show, movie, something that offers valuable insights or some inspiration for yourself as an entrepreneur, or maybe something that you share with other business leaders? Something that stands out to you.
I think it's more of like, hey, have you seen this movie? This is kind of one of my go-tos because it's such a poignant part of for my career. It's called Dinner Rush. Okay. And it's a movie from the 90s. It took place in Tribeca, New York, about an Italian restaurant, and the owner, the older Italian American guy, who may or not had some connections to the mafia.
Sure.
And his son was the chef. And they saw things differently. He wanted old school joint. He wanted sausage and peppers and pastas. And this guy wanted to do, nouvelle cuisine. And it all took place over one night. It was one dinner rush, right? And so all this stuff happens, and it's, it's a funny, but also very, transparent view for folks that want to understand what one night at a restaurant at a place in New York City might feel like.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've made the connection, but even thinking a little bit about your journey and the conversation we had today, kind of starting off in that old chapter, now working in the new chapter, and having to find the balance and taking the best of both worlds and pulling them together in the organization. All right, the last one, our favorite. What brings you joy?
Going out on the lake with my wife and my two-year-old rescue dog, where we live out in North Granby, just for like a little paddle.
Yeah,
on
just
a nice
out.
day.
Yeah, that's the best. And probably finding a little bit of peace out in the lake too.
Yeah,
right?
some tranquility.
Yeah,
love it.
Awesome, Jeff. Thank you so much for coming in. Congratulations on your success. The Foundry is amazing. Your journey, your story is amazing. Go check it out. Say what's up to Jeff and Jesse when you're there. And I'm looking forward to making my next visit soon.
Thank you so much, Rory.
See ya. Thanks.